Welcome to the channel, everyone. Model Car Guy Rich here. How you doing? Today I have a wonderful opportunity to share with you an interview from a gentleman who has been building model kits for many years. And as an added bonus, his mother worked at the Jo-Han Model Company. So this is Russ. Russ,
hi.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for your time in doing this. How long have you been building models?
My first model, I was thinking about this the other day, I built when I was 5. And I can remember it plain as day. It was a little dragster. It was probably like 1/32 scale. It was red. I didn't paint anything. I just followed the instructions, and it was a glue bomb.
Okay.
Okay. But at 5,
that's beautiful.
So, and not too long after that was when my mom started working at Jo-Han.
Okay.
And she started bringing me bags full of models home.
Nice.
Because she saw that I was interested in it. So, and that obsession continues, to this day, as you can see. I mean, I think there's very few Jo-Han models I don't have. And of course, the ones that I don't have are the holy grail for every Jo-Han guy. And those are the ones that are ridiculously priced everywhere, and
Yeah.
So
how long did she work there?
She was there for, I believe, about 7 or 8 years.
Wonderful.
And I think she, again, I was telling you earlier, she actually got hired by Kelly, from Kelly Girl, which was, the personnel company in the world. And they would move her from department to department.
Okay.
She ultimately ended up in, like, the accounting department. So, I think she worked on the line a little bit, but then went inside and did secretarial type work and all that. But either way, they used to let the employees buy these models. And I remember distinctly her saying that, well, they're only a quarter or something. And it's like, goodness. Come on, a quarter? I mean, one of the models here has a 98-cent price tag on it.
Nice.
And those are from that stickers from Jo-Han. So,
Okay.
So you can see there was a markup, but it wasn't like they were making millions of dollars on these things.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so walk me through your process of how you go about building a model.
Well, what I usually do is, first of all, depending on the model, obviously you pick the color of the body, you pick, color of the interior, things like that. And then you start to realize, well, do I really want to build it that model color, or should I stick to like an OE color? A lot of the models I built were whatever was in the garage, spray can.
Oh, sure.
And all the interiors were pretty much black. and then, like, I didn't get into wiring models until way, later in my building model career, or whatever you want to call it.
Same here, yeah.
And then, when I got married for many years, no building models, because raising a family, all that stuff, and, you didn't build models because you didn't have time.
Right.
So like I said, I pick paint color, pick things like that. What wheels do you want to use? Do you want to build it stock? Do you want to build it custom? Do you want to build the race car version? All that stuff. And a lot of times it was just whatever the whim was at the time. Okay. So
So what are some of your favorite memories of model building?
Well, just I'm an outgoing person, but I'm not an outgoing person depending on who I'm with. Okay. And a lot of times I would just want to sit somewhere and just think about building the model and clearing my mind that way. Okay. I mean, same thing happens with music. I have a music sort of career because I play in a band and that, but a lot of times my enjoyment of music is sitting in the basement here, picking up my Martin 12-string and play a few songs, and
Very nice.
It clears the mind.
Okay. Okay, so if you could go back and give a younger you advice on model building, what would that be?
I would say when you see it, buy it. And if you don't build it right away, don't worry about it. Because one day you'll wake up and go, gosh, you know, I should have bought one of those 64 Dodge models.
Nice.
So that I could build. I saw one yesterday at a car show or whatever, and I should build one of those. And then you realize, well, either A, you can't find one, or B, it's so ridiculously priced that, you know, you should have bought it when you saw it. So.
Okay. What are you up to nowadays?
Well, it depends on what you're asking about. As far as building models, the last model I built is I built a replica of my real 1-to-1 65 Valiant convertible,
Yep, beautiful.
which of course they never made. So my years of model building experience taught me. I found a resin body.
Okay.
It was a sedan, or I'm sorry, it was a hardtop. Cut the roof off of it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because my car's a convertible.
Yep.
And then I had to kit bash like 8 kits
Oh boy.
to get everything that I wanted
Right.
for the car. For
Okay.
example, you know, the car is a 273 V8. The only kit that has a 273 V8 in it is the little red truck.
Really?
Okay? The kit comes with a slant 6, the 273, and then the Hemi. Well, I had to bash a kit to get the 273 out of it, right?
Yep.
Well, the chassis on the resin kit is a 6-cylinder chassis, which shows the single exhaust
Okay.
and the 6-cylinder engine. Well, I had to literally take the Duster, 71 Duster,
Okay.
which is an A body,
Yep.
which is that kit up there.
Yep. Yep.
And I had to steal the chassis from it, and I had to actually section the chassis because it was a little bit too long
Oh
for
my
the
gosh.
65 Valiant body. You know, so you get into all this stuff that if I was a novice model builder, you're not going to section a chassis, and you're not going to do all this stuff that, you know, is a little bit more detail oriented.
Right.
And then, you know, I had to scratch build the dual exhaust because there was no kit that I could bash that from. And you know, I think I stole the exhaust from a B-body Chrysler product.
Okay.
You know, because it had sort of the same configurations and, you know, little stuff like that that you don't really, you know, unless you've built models, you don't really know, you know. And then, you know, back to my original 1-to-1, when I put disc brakes on it, the factory wheels and tires wouldn't fit over the disc brake calipers. So I had to go to rally wheels, you know, Chrysler factory rally wheels. Well, again, I had to go to a kit and find that same factory Chrysler rally wheel to match my, you know, 1-to-1
Sure.
for my model. So
That's
you know,
great.
it's all that kind of kit bashing. And then of course now, because I'm a little bit more advanced, I put in heater hoses and wiring and you know, all that stuff. So
Okay.
but yeah, so that was my last model.
Okay.
Now, and unfortunately, you know, it took me probably 6 months to actually build that model.
Okay.
And then the best part of the detail was I have a personalized plate on my car. And so I literally took a photograph of it, shrunk it down so that I could put the actual
Excellent.
same plate on my model.
That's very cool. Do you have that
So,
kit here?
It's actually in the other room. We could,
Okay.
I can get it and we'll shoot it later.
Okay, we'll take a
So,
picture and put that
yeah.
in right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
How about what are the types of kits that you like to build? Obviously, you have a passion for Jo-Han.
And I think every model builder will agree with me that the detail on these models
Absolutely.
were far superior to
Yes.
anybody else.
100%,
And so,
yep.
so if you like detailed models, these are the ones to build, and these are the ones I like to build. However, I always love the AMT 3-in-1s
Oh, yeah.
because you could mix and match, and
Yep.
you know, you weren't as critical of the details. But AMT always used to make some really neat, you know.
Okay.
So.
Well, next question I have is, do you still build? But obviously,
Yes.
you do.
Oh, I do, yeah. In fact, honestly, my latest thing is when I find an old Jo-Han kit, you know, a lot of times there's parts missing or, you know, because again, over the years, people have...
They grow legs.
Yeah, they grow legs.
Yeah.
And so what I've actually started doing is hunting for those older, rare models and trying to figure out, can I find a part for it? Or in the case of like these, everybody knows the Haulin Hearse and the Rambulance, Jo-Han basically kit bashed those kits, okay? And I started to discover things like, you know, for both of them, they, you know, like here's, for example, you know, and again, this is the kind of condition you find this stuff in. It's very rare to find a mint one.
Okay.
But you start to look at things like, you know, the chassis they used from here forward is the Oldsmobile Toronado chassis.
Oh, interesting.
And as I discovered that, I realized that the front engine in these kits is the Oldsmobile Toronado sideways, you know, front-wheel drive engine. Well, okay, so if you found a kit that somebody bashed or you know, started
from, whatever,
and lost the engine, for example, you go get a Toronado kit, steal the engine out of it, now you've got the Hearst and the Rambulance engine.
Okay.
And then the center engine, come to find out, is the Hemi from the Dodge Challenger funny car. Okay.
Wow.
And the reason for that is the center engine and the front engine are automatic trans engines. They're not sticks. Well, the only Jo-Han model that has an automatic Hemi engine in it is the Challenger.
Wow. I did not know that.
And not only that, but the headers from the Challenger funny car fit
that kit. Okay.
You know, and so little things like that, you know, have been intriguing to me, and I start to figure out, well, no wonder, you know, Jo-Han, you know, was so unique and stuff. Is they literally figured out ways of combining and, you know, things like that. And then as far as the body goes, literally the bodies themselves, the ambulance body is the same ambulance body that you would get with the the
Heavenly Hearse?
Well, no, that's the funeral car.
Okay.
It's the there's an ambulance body. I don't know why I don't have that kit handy here.
Okay.
But anyway, it's the same body.
All right.
And all they did was cut a hole in the hood for the fuel injectors.
Oh.
And the interior is basically the same interior from either one, the Hearst or the ambulance.
Okay.
And they cut a hole in it for the Hemi. I mean, it's literally the same thing. So you could technically...
So do you think that the holes were put in after the molds were made?
Oh, I'm sure, probably.
Because they wouldn't have damaged the molds to make it that way, do you think?
Hard to say.
Okay.
Because, you know, towards the end of Jo-Han, they were just trying to make money.
Good point.
So if these kits weren't selling, say, for the regular Hearse,
right,
and they needed to bash that to create the, you know, the Haulin Hearse,
okay.
I mean, it literally is, so what?
Right.
You know, so...
So a couple of years ago, you were telling me that you had issue finding a frame for one of them.
Well, you know, the frame is the only real unique thing on these.
Okay.
Is it's not the same as you would have a regular frame. If you notice, it's basically a standard, just a rail type frame.
Okay.
But what's interesting about it is there's two little pins on the back here that hold the rear axle.
Okay.
And the rear axle is pinned. Okay, I don't know if you can see it real well, but that's the rear axle, and those holes line up here to make the rear axle.
Okay.
There's no other Jo-Han kit that has those.
So there's no other frame piece behind the axle?
No, that's it. This is literally the end of the frame.
Wow, okay.
Okay. And so, you know, and then there are these body supports that pin to the frame. There's holes here on the frame, and then these long, skinny pieces pin on the frame.
Okay. And those are the support for the rear end?
Those support the rest of the body.
Okay.
That's all they're for.
Holding it up.
It just holds the body end of the frame.
Wow, okay.
So, honestly, what's interesting is if somebody could 3D print this frame, you could literally kit bash a bunch of other Jo-Han models to put the rest of the engine the rest of the frame together.
Okay.
And make your own Rambulance or Haulin Hearse.
Right, or whatever comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, you know, and then as you can see, they the first Haulin Hearse kit was a flat box, you know.
Okay.
And then when they started to reissue these, the Haulin Hearse became one of the smaller boxes.
Okay.
So now, unfortunately, they didn't do anything with the Rambulance. So
it only came in that box?
It came as a flat box.
Okay.
So.
Very interesting.
But yeah, and then, you know, a lot of these were, a lot of people overlook these over the years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know.
Tell me the difference then, I mean, if you know, the difference between this kit and one of those.
Oh, that's the ambulance kit right there.
Oh,
so
okay.
this is the body, this ambulance body is the same one that is used in the Roaring Rambulance.
Okay.
And like I said, the only difference visually is the hood and the hole in the interior for the engine.
Okay.
You know, it's basically that same car. And I mean, even the door and, you know, things like that. And of course, the wheels are different, you know, because they're slicks, because it's a four-wheel drive car basically.
Okay.
You know, but other than that, it's the same body. And then they made these. I don't know if I got one handy. They took the factory bumper and they took the grill out of it, and then they made these headlight covers.
Oh, okay.
So again, the headlight covers are the only other thing you'd have to 3D print if somebody
Gotcha.
could.
Gotcha.
But the grill, you take the standard ambulance grill and just take the grill, you take the factory bumper and take the grill off of it, and you've got the Rambulance
Gotcha.
front end.
Okay.
And the back end's still the same. They even leave the tail lights in the back end. So.
Very cool.
But yeah, so that kit morphed into the Roaring Rambulance.
So this one was first?
Yeah, this one was first.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of guys will build these to, like, their city. You know, like, this comes with Detroit Fire Department decals.
Oh, very neat.
Because, again, Jo-Han was in Detroit and all that.
Right.
But there are companies out here now you can get, you know, San Francisco Fire Department and stuff like that. So,
talk to me about the emergency wagon.
oh, the Plymouth?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, interesting about this one, you could get two different versions of this,
Okay.
of course. You had the standard mom and pop station wagon.
Okay.
Okay. And then you had the emergency wagon, which you could build the standard wagon out of it. You just wouldn't put any of the police
The
type
emergency
stuff on
stuff,
it.
okay.
Yeah, the emergency stuff. But, you know, this comes with, like, the red bubble, the siren, the whip antenna on the back.
Wow.
It's got a radio, you know, like a police radio.
Okay.
Things like that. It's got a push bar that you
Okay.
can put on the front of it.
Very cool.
But it's basically this same kit here,
Yeah.
but as a station wagon.
Okay.
That's a police wagon.
Okay.
So, you know. And again, what's interesting about these is when they first came out, hardly any of them anybody wanted. Well, now, this regular station wagon, because in the old car hobby, the 60 Plymouth is a rare, you know, sought after, unique body style.
Right.
When these first came out, hardly anybody bought them. And you know, as a side note, I happen to be the national president of the Plymouth Owners Club. And in our membership, it's hilarious how this car, whether it's a convertible, a hardtop, a wagon, or whatever, is one of the most sought after Plymouths.
Oh my goodness.
In the real world.
That is so cool.
The one-to-one world.
Okay.
So, and again, as you can see, I have 3 police wagons and only 1 regular one. But-
Yeah.
Because they're hard to find.
Right.
You know. So, and anything these days with fins seems to be
The big deal, huh?
Yeah, all the resin guys have decided that the 56 Plymouth, which used to be, I have a promo drawer, just so you know, but this is a Jo-Han
beautiful.
56 Plymouth Taxi.
Okay.
That's exactly how it came from Jo-Han.
Nice.
But over the years now, because of the fins,
Okay.
you've got guys that have now resin cast this body, but as a 2-door.
Very cool.
Okay. And then, I don't know if I have, Okay, so again, the resin caster guys have figured out this body is so cool because of the fins in that. They've taken this body, turned it into a two-door. Okay, and then they built a Fury, which 56 was the first year for the Fury.
Okay.
And they've actually resin cast the trim and everything on the body. I actually have one. I think it's buried in a box somewhere, you know, in here. But and the only reason I bought one is I actually had a real 56 Plymouth Fury that I was restoring.
Very cool.
But again, back to my comment about fins. Anything with fins in Jo-Han, there's a 59, for example, I have one, 59 Plymouth Fury Promo is one of the hardest ones to find in good condition because in 59 they were using that plastic that would warp.
Oh yeah.
Before they went to the poly stuff. Yeah. So almost everyone you find has the bent fins and bent fenders and warped chassis and all that stuff. But today you can get this 56 Plymouth in numerous colors. Oh, nice. And then even when Jo-Han went out of business and was sold to Seville and those guys, they resurrected that as one of their promos to sell. And I think they cast it in they molded it in just about every color they had available. Okay. So
what was the original color?
I think, well, of course, the original one was that white.
The kind of off-white, the
kind of
faded,
off-white, faded white. Then they made the taxis in yellow.
Sure, makes sense.
Then a lot of the original promos were two-toned.
Okay.
Where, I don't know if I have I don't think I have a 56 two-tone.
Okay.
But what they did, I'll pull this one out again. You know, from the factory, you could order two-tone paint. So what they would have is inside this molding, this would be a different color. So, you know, you could get like a turquoise blue body with a darker blue insert. Okay. And sometimes the roof was the same color. Okay. And if you've seen any of the old pictures from the Jo-Han plant, you know, they had a mask that went around, say, the roof.
Really? Okay.
And they literally sprayed the color, you know, mask, and then took it off and sent it down the line, you know. Wow. There's actually pictures on the internet of that, you know.
Okay, I'll try and find some of those and put them in right here.
So that's how you got the two-tone. And I believe, like here, for example, this is a good example of that. This is a 55 Pontiac Jo-Han promo. Wow. Okay, and this is
beautiful.
This is black and yellow.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Let me get a close up of that.
And if you really look real close, depending on the quality control of the person, you can see, like right here on this one, they screwed up the mask. Okay. And
missed it a little bit.
The overspray.
Yeah, yeah.
And this, interestingly, in 55, there was no interior in this.
No kidding.
There's no interior. So the real detail-oriented guys today, there's a resin interior you can buy for this, so you can make it a. But you know, this is an original Jo-Han as well.
Okay, is that a screw bottom?
No, this one actually, I think somebody repaired this.
Oh, okay.
So.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, so you know, that's how they did the color masking. I don't think I have too many other two-tones. You know, most of the rest of them are. But oh yeah, you know what? There is another two-tone that I can show you, which is a very sought after. This is a '69 Plymouth GTX. Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay, and
oh my goodness,
if you see here, the two-tone, they did the black.
Yep.
Okay, and you know. So.
And did that come with an engine?
No, in fact, the engine is actually cast as part of the chassis.
So curbside.
Yeah, so curbside.
Nice.
Yep. So. Now, interestingly, the model for this, which is, again, very hard to find, has an engine and opening hood and stuff like that. And I have yet to find a kit one of those, but I actually have what they call a builder, which is something that somebody bought and then built and then
lost interest or whatever.
You end up finding it at a flea market or a car show or something.
Sure.
But what's interesting about the promo models is that's a whole nother world even to model builders, because the promo models have a whole different following. I mean, you look at stuff like this, for example. You and I would, at our mom's house, would have played with this on the floor.
Absolutely.
And, rolled it around, blew it up.
Yep.
Well, this model, believe it or not, now this one I actually have the hood ornament for. It's not on the car. This model, believe it or not, is like $200.
Wow.
Isn't
that crazy?
And it doesn't matter even much of the condition. You can, anything like the scratches on this, you can buff out.
Right.
And but it's a complete car, and it's a friction chassis.
Nice. Will you show that to the camera?
Oh, I did. Yeah, here. The friction chassis.
The friction. Yeah. Right.
So it's that's the friction chassis.
Very cool. Thank you.
And then so you always, the promo guys are more into how many different versions are there. So
sure.
So there's that one, that's 65, and then the real sought after one is right here, which is the 65 pace car.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay, and again, this doesn't have the friction chassis, but what it does have is it's got the working torsion bars.
Oh my goodness.
Which is,
that's a
again,
big deal.
showing off Chrysler's technology. But you can see again they did a spray template for the interior to match the pace car.
Yeah.
Comes with the decals and everything, and this one obviously has the hood ornament complete.
Yeah.
But the promo guys, they go after, I want every single color, every single style. I mean, I honestly only started collecting promos, number one, because Jo-Han made them, but number two, since I'm a Plymouth guy, most of my promo models are Plymouths.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
And just, just to show you that I'm not, I still collect other than, what the hell is it? This is it. No, that's not it. I have there it is. I have an AMT promo.
Oh.
Since, since I'm a Plymouth guy, so I had to collect all the Plymouths, but this is an AMT promo.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This is a 69 Barracuda, but this is AMT. And AMT, basically, just like Jo-Han, they took the kit and turned it into a promo.
Okay.
And what you really can't see too much detail, but this is an engine plate.
Right.
So in the kit, you could put your real engine in it, but the promo, they put a plate in it.
Yep.
And you can always tell because the plate is painted to match the body, but it doesn't quite match the chassis exactly. But even still, this is a very sought after.
That's beautiful.
And the funny thing about this is they call these error wheels. You couldn't, if you ordered these on your car, Plymouth tried to get them taken back because they were breaking and things like that.
Oh.
So if you find these wheels, say at a swap meet, they're just like $1,000 a piece or something.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, when you think about it. But like I said, just to show I don't collect just
Jo-Han. Okay.
So, but I will say, if most people don't realize it, the model companies were all sort of in bed with each other on a lot of things. And, back to what we were talking about, when Jo-Han went out of business, they did some weird stuff. And somehow, for example, AMT ended up with a lot of the tooling on certain models.
Okay.
So this is an AMT model of the Hamtown Hemi, but this kit is actually the Challenger funny car
From Jo-Han.
from Jo-Han.
Okay.
It's exactly made from their molds. The pieces are identical, so if you were missing a piece from this, you could actually go to the Challenger kit and bash it.
Wow.
And, but there's a lot of people that don't know that that's what happened.
What year did that come out?
Gosh, I'm not sure.
Doesn't
I want to
matter.
say probably
late 70s?
late 70s, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
So.
Very cool.
And, there are other ones. There's a... I believe there's either a Maverick or a Comet, one of those two, and then there's the Oldsmobile Cutlass.
The F85, that one?
No, the 442.
Oh, okay. That one, yes, that
which
one.
again,
Yes.
that tooling somehow ended up at Testers.
Let me take the camera out and show that one.
But yeah. So this kit from Jo-Han is actually this Testers kit. It's the same kit. The only difference is Testers put these steel wheels in it, or real metal wheels, or whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
So yeah, and then then I was able to actually find a lot of these rare ones that like this is one of the most sought after funny cars in Jo-Han.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And what I ended up doing with a lot of these is some of them were built already, but funny cars for some reason are very fragile, probably because of the way the chassis is and everything.
Sure.
So any chance I could get at a flea market or a toy show or whatever, I bought a bunch of funny car parts.
Okay.
And so I actually have a box of just funny car parts.
Oh, nice.
In case as I get into building them, like these are all. The funny car had different wheels and tires, different headers, chassis, so that if I did occasionally found a, somebody that had a funny car that was all beat up or whatever, I could restore it.
Okay.
Technically, because I bought a bunch of parts that
with original parts.
Yes. And,
very nice.
Those don't exist anymore technically.
Right.
And then I'll tell you a funny story about this one. This is the 59 Oldsmobile.
Okay.
And I didn't have one of these. And a friend of mine called me and told me about this auction site. Okay. He says, I think there's an old Jo-Han on there, So I went on there and there was this and 3 other promo models on there. And so I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just put a bid in on it. Well, this is like a $200 model on eBay. Okay. And it's completely unbuilt. All the original parts are in here.
Very cool.
And very hard to find. I paid $95.
Wow, good deal.
For this and
that's
the 3
Oldsmobile?
Yeah, this is an Oldsmobile. It's a sportsman model, they called it.
Okay. Didn't AMT put a 3-in-1 Oldsmobile kit out?
They may have, but it's not this
one. It's not that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but like I said, these are at least a couple $100 on eBay. I paid $95 for this and the 3 promo models, and I ended up selling 2 of the promo models already.
Good deal.
Way got my money back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's like, those finds are very hard to come across.
Sure.
So,
right place at the right time.
Yep. So that added to the collection as well.
And that was a 60?
That's a 59.
59. Yep. Okay.
Huh. So, what else we got here? A lot of these are, common that people have seen. These early 60s ones, people are always looking for, especially the 60 Dodge Dart.
Oh, sure.
Which is, again, it's a Finn car, so it's unusual, and people are always after these. These, I believe, are built, these that I have. Yeah, see, this one was a built model that somebody built. And I personally wouldn't have built it this way, but,
well,
you
here's
take
what it
what
is.
you can
Right,
get.
right.
And the biggest thing about this was the fact that when you do find these older ones, people have sanded off a lot of the trim and the detail. This one is actually in pretty good shape.
Okay.
And they didn't even paint the chassis. So it'd be real easy to restore this. And of course, what's cool about it is just the unique fin and body, you know.
No, I wasn't even aware they made a Dart in that year.
Yeah.
I thought Dart came out like 62 or 3.
Well, see, that's the funny thing about Chrysler always recycled names.
Okay.
You know, the name Dart was originally this full-size car.
Okay.
You know, and then eventually it turned into the smaller A-body Darts.
Okay.
But anyway.
Very cool.
Yeah, so like I said, these 60s, you know, and again, the 60 DeSoto originally was released like this, and then you buy, you know, the after version of it, the USA Oldies, is the same car, but it's just they upgraded the boxing and all that stuff, and you know, so it's funny how, you know, if you've been doing it as long as I have, you remember the original stuff.
Right, absolutely.
And then later in life you go, oh, they reissued that under the USA Oldies? Or, you know, I mean, it's the same thing with the Roadrunners.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is the original Roadrunner with the cartoon box.
Yep.
I've seen idiots pay $75, $80 for the box with nothing in it. And then this is the same car, basically, only they turned it into a oval track racer, but you can still build it stock.
Yes.
You know, just like this one.
Yep.
So, and then, you know, then you get into the flat boxes, because the flat boxes, most people don't realize, were more popular, you know, at the time, because you got all this neat stuff in it besides just the model. Like this Dodge Funny Car version, you could actually build 2 cars out of this.
Wow.
Okay. And you know, it came with all the funny car stuff and all the regular stock stuff. So, and then, you know, this kit here, the original Hemi kit, is the one that turned into this super stock drag car, basically.
Oh, okay.
And the interesting thing about this is, this particular kit was originally released as the Polara, and it had the Polara molding down the body. But this one only came as the non-Polara version. However, it was a crapshoot when you got the kit, because it could have had the Polara body in it, depending on what Jo-Han had available to release the kits.
Gotcha.
This one only came with the non-Polara body, without that molding.
Okay.
So, interesting stuff there.
So what was it called instead of Polara? What was it?
Well, it was a Polara.
Okay.
Okay, but this one was actually called the Polara 500.
Ah, okay.
In the real world.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, but in the Jo-Han world, it was still just a 64 Dodge.
I gotcha.
So, and then, you know, they made a convertible kit out of this one.
Oh.
But you couldn't build a funny car out of the convertible. You could only build the regular convertible.
Okay, makes sense.
And I actually have 2 builders of the 64 Dodge. You can see there's one of them, and there's the other one.
All right.
So, but what else? Now, a lot of people don't realize there are 2 different Challenger kits. There's a Gene Snow version.
Okay.
And then there's the regular one. And I bought a Challenger kit at a swap meet, and it turned out that it had the Gene Snow version in the kit.
Really?
And there isn't much difference between them. It's only a couple of interior pieces and a couple other things, plus the decals.
Okay, sure.
But it's basically the same base funny car kit.
Very cool.
You know. So I'm trying to think of what else is unusual that people would like to hear about. The ones that are really overlooked are these old Rambler kits. They actually are pretty cool, because you can take what would be a plain Jane Rambler and make it into these wild customs, and the body was so cool that you could it was a really neat looking car.
Nice.
What else? Everybody knows about the turbine car. I don't think there's anything unique there. Okay. I think where we left off was I was just going to point out a couple of the things that there's a lot of discussion on some of the Facebook Jo-Han pages.
Okay.
You know, they made a bunch of different versions of the AMC, AMX car.
Okay.
So you had this, then of course you had the funny cars, and then you had the snap together,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a, gosh, I forget what they marketed it under, but there was a quick.
Right there, super stock.
Well, yeah, this is another one. Right?
Yeah.
So you got that version, and then there was another one that, gosh, I want to say it was either Testers or somebody like that that came out with a version similar to this.
Okay.
And all they were was just rehashes.
With different artwork?
Yeah, different artwork and stuff, but sometimes there were different year bodies in them.
Yeah, right there, those
and
two.
different, then you've got the Fulmer's version, and then you've got the AMX Super Stock, Shirley Shanahan version.
Yep.
And each one, depending on which kit at the time, you may not have gotten the body that should have been in the kit.
Oh, no kidding.
Or like if it was a stock version, like like even this one, sometimes you got the 70 or 72 or 73 bumpers in the 69 kit, or
oh geez,
so if you were trying to build the actual car, sometimes you had to be careful of what came in the box.
Wow.
And again, that's just a function, I think, of Jo-Han. A lot of times we're using whatever was available to make the box.
To get to the next day.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate about the colors of the bodies in injection, for example. And I read somewhere that a lot of times they bought whatever was available plastic-wise.
Oh, sure.
And so sometimes you'd get, blue, and then you'd get red, or you'd get yellow, or, And then, of course, the collector's world would suddenly go, oh, well, yellow's the rarest car.
Right.
And it's like, well, really? Is it really the rarest car, or is it just happened to be that was the color of the plastic they got?
That's what they bought that day. Yep.
So,
So I've never seen that AMX Javelin funny car there.
Which one? The one up here?
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen that one.
Now, again, interestingly, I don't know if you noticed this, but the one above it is an AMT kit.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and it's basically the same car.
Okay.
And this falls into the same category as the Challenger.
Okay.
Where, somehow AMT ended up with enough tooling to put out, this version of it.
Wow.
And all they did was they called it something else. Mm-hmm. But it's basically the same as that kit.
Wow.
That's the Jo-Han kit.
Okay.
So, and as with anything else, people bought thinking they were buying an AMT kit.
Right.
The reality was they were actually buying a Jo-Han kit.
That was just reboxed.
That was just reboxed.
Oh my goodness.
And, the great thing about that is if you found somebody that had one of those that they built and they, screwed up or whatever, you go to a Jo-Han funny car kit and steal the chassis stuff and things like that. So
careful there. So can you show me that turbine car there? I don't recall ever seeing that box.
Well, this is the reissue.
Oh, okay.
This is, I don't know if you're familiar with the whole story about who owns what now, and there's a guy, and I won't mention his name, but he bought supposedly the Jo-Han business.
In Ohio?
No, he bought when it was Seville.
Okay.
Romeo
So before that. Okay.
So then, apparently, he thought he bought all the business, but he didn't buy the rights or something to the name. Okay. Then there's this other guy now that's in Ohio.
Okay.
That owns the name.
Right.
And things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a battle, and I don't even want to get into the whole thing. But what this guy did was there were 2 or 3 kits that he reissued where he had enough parts when he bought the the company.
The company, yeah.
So and this happens to be one of them. This is it's a curbside kit.
Okay.
And It's
In
basically
white.
the basic Jo-Han kit.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason it's in white is because there actually was a white promo model that was issued.
Okay.
And it was done for a movie. Okay,
Really?
I forget what it was called. The Wild Ones or the Wild Set or something like that.
Okay.
But he issued it in this color because that promo model's kind of rare.
Yeah.
And he even gave the decals that were the same ones that were on the promo model.
Okay.
So that's that one. And then the next one he did, or actually I'm not sure of the order that they were released.
Yeah.
But this is his model 2 of the 59 Rambler wagon. Okay, so these two were from the same version of Jo-Han.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh.
So, and you know, the 59 wagon was actually a real Jo-Han, but only in a promo model. You couldn't buy a kit.
Oh.
Because I actually have a 59 Rambler promo model wagon.
Okay. So then,
So-
what's the police car next to it is Plymouth wagon.
Yeah,
To
this is
the left.
Plymouth. Yeah,
Okay.
This is Rambler.
Rambler. Okay.
Okay.
AMC. Yeah.
AMC. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah. So that's the story with the
Transition.
Jo-Han after Seville,
Okay.
and then Jo-Han at the same time with the Ohio Jo-Han.
Okay. Wow.
So like
a
I
lot
said,
to
it's
it,
a weird relationship, and in the model world, it's just kind of like everybody stays away from the serious part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
you know, and yeah, that's it's another one of those funny things. So, trying to think if there's anything else that is very intriguing that anybody would be interested in. I mean, of course, you know, I can pull this stuff out. This is another case of old versus new.
Okay.
Okay. This is, let me find it here. This kit, okay, 63 Plymouth Fury. This is the
Okay.
original issue.
Okay.
Well, then they came out with, and of course I don't think I have one out here, it's in the box.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in this box. They came out with what they called the 63 Plymouth Custom Kit,
Okay.
which, you know, is a box this size as opposed to the small box.
Okay.
And the car on the cover was a customized 63 Fury, but you could still build it 3 ways.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the first version. Then you had the 60. Yeah, here it is. Then you had the 62 Dodge Dart, which, again, this is a terrible old box, but, you know, this, and then the 62 is right here.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so this is the new version of this original kit.
Okay.
So,
But by new, we're talking
well, I'm
80s?
Yeah, I'm saying this
Okay.
is 80s, this
Yep.
is the original version.
Okay.
So, and basically, you know, the kits are pretty much the same kit. It's just, you know, it was originally issued back in the early days of Jo-Han.
Okay.
And I don't think any of the other ones here were issued that way. There's a 63 Plymouth convertible, but it was only issued in the early 60s.
Okay.
So it wasn't issued,
Wasn't repop?
wasn't redone,
Okay.
even, you know, with the USA Oldies or whatever you want to call
Okay.
it. So,
All right.
that's pretty much it, other than promo models. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of these promo models that didn't survive kids playing with them.
Right.
And the ones that did survive are very sought after, like this one, for example. This is a 61 Plymouth Fury.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Wow.
And this one's not terrible. but it is made out of that damn plastic that warps. But it's got the torsion bar suspension.
Okay.
But here's what we're talking about when you see the warp.
Yep.
See the way the headlights don't line up anymore?
Yep.
That's because this plastic is warped.
Yep.
And originally it was great, you know, when it first came out. But because of this type of plastic, there's a lot of these promo models that, you know,
couldn't take the heat,
couldn't
literally.
take the heat or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. As you know, I have the 57 Bel Air.
Right. Yep.
And it did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
The now here's an interesting thing. We were talking about the guy that bought Jo-Han from Seville. This, for example, is one of his kits that he released, where he had some of the original parts, and then he combined them with other parts, you know, to release a, you know, what I'll call a promo kit. Now,
that's very cool.
This, again, the original one didn't have an interior, so that's how he reissued it.
Okay.
And it comes in this box with his little, you know, logo on it and everything, but this is not the
current one.
It's not the guy in Ohio stuff.
Right. Okay.
Who claims to be the Jo-Han guy.
Okay.
So, and like I said, there's all kinds of, I think this is a built kit. Yeah, see, this is a good example of how you end up a lot of these.
Yeah.
This is a 61 Oldsmobile, and whoever built this was one of those people that had to put everything that was in the kit in it. You know, and it looks like one of the chrome pieces broke off of the exhaust, but he did the skirts, he did the spinner wheels, it's got spotlights, it's got the mirrors, it's got the antennas. It's even got the bullets in the headlights, but
full custom job.
Yeah, but the cool thing about this is that this is very restorable.
Yes.
So, and only because this plastic is the good stuff. So, you know, a quick dip in the pond, what they call the purple pond, and I mean, even the good thing is it still has the lettering. You know, and that's like here, it's got the logo on the trunk. That's the stuff that a lot of these guys used to just sand off.
Right off. Yep.
So, so anyway, that's the other exhaust tip. So, trying to think anything else that would be interesting to people. Most of these promos are just different colors of, you know, different. Oh, here's an interesting. This is, we saw the 56 Plymouth Taxi. This actually is a 58 Plymouth Taxi.
Oh, nice.
Okay, but unfortunately somebody painted it
black. Yeah.
and I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
But see, in the body they actually stamped taxi.
Okay, let me see.
And see the, you know, it's the original yellow color. But, you know, they painted right over where it said taxi.
Wow.
So, and again, this has the famous Jo-Han smile.
Yep.
Although this is not terrible. And this does not have an interior as well. And it's a friction chassis.
Wow.
So you know, this is very restorable for a promo, and being that it's a taxi, it's kind of a rare version of it.
Wow.
And you know, unfortunately for this, there are people that buy these promos and hack them up to turn them into Christine.
Right. Right. Yep.
So, which makes you wonder which one's really more valuable. Because you can buy a Christine model and build it, or you take this $100 promo and beat it up to make it look like Christine.
Right.
So.
That's awesome.
All right, gosh, I think that's, you know, other than going through every promo that, you know, exists, I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
That's very cool. I certainly appreciate your time. Talk to me about what your shirt says there.
This is my retirement business.
Okay.
I've been retired about 4 years now.
Okay.
I have a company that, being that I'm a Chrysler person, with this adapter kit that I make, you can take the original trans out from any Chrysler product that has a flathead 6 or a flathead 8 for that matter. So, you know, Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth, DeSoto. You can take the original factory 3-speed cast iron trans out, and with my adapter kit, you can take the 5-speed manual overdrive trans from either an S10 or a Mustang or Camaro and bolt it directly to the back of a Chrysler flathead. No holes drilled, no anything like that. It's all bolt-in, and the only thing you have to have made is a drive shaft, because you've got a, you know,
extended or
different. It's a different yoke.
Oh, okay.
You know, coming out of the trans.
Of course.
You know, to the, you know, factory.
Right.
So,
right.
And it's all bolt-in. It's literally a weekend project.
Nice.
I mean, you can see my website. It's 5speedadapter.com. If you want to learn about it, there's an article about the first car that I did the conversion, was a 35 Plymouth. Just to give you an idea how much it helps your car, this particular car, or any flathead for that matter, when you're driving along and you want to really go on the expressway or whatever, a flathead factory trans, if you get 55 or 60 miles an hour out of it, you're, number one, you're doing good, but number two, your engine is about to explode.
You're screaming.
It's geared wrong.
Yep.
You put the 5-speed in it. I drove that car at 80 miles an hour, and the engine was at 2,200 RPM, just kind of snoozing along.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And, you know, the difference is the 5-speed is fully synchronized, which means you can put it in any gear at any speed if you really wanted to. With the factory 3-speed, you have to come to a complete stop to put it in first gear. You know, you're taking out a 300-pound trans and you're putting in less than 125-pound trans.
Yep.
So it's huge benefits to do it, and it makes your car drive like a brand new car.
Nice.
So that's the business I have, and right now I'm working on a adapter kit for the old Chrysler Slant 6s to put this 5-speed on.
Very interesting.
And only because people have asked me the question through, you know, this other business. So. And I've been selling these now for about 3 years, and you know,
that is fantastic.
It's a fun business and keeps me off the streets.
There you go.
And out of the bars.
Nice. That is awesome.
Yep.
Well, all right, guys. Links will be in the description, and please check it out. And I want to thank Russ for his time and sharing his collection with us. I will include a bunch of pictures in that throughout the video. So thank you so much. Have a great day. This is Model Car Guy Rich out. Keep on modeling.